Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. Today I am here with a video regarding like panning and some tips and tricks because I had this run requested a couple times from you guys. So since I am pre-filming at the moment, I thought this would be a perfect video to kind of film and include for you guys. So this is going to be kind of like my tips and just in general how I make sure that I organize and rotate through my eyeshadows. So as you know, I do have quite an extensive eyeshadow collection. I have currently, I think it's just over 1,100 eyeshadows, which is a lot. And of course, since I have that many, how do I make sure that I use them all? How do I rotate through them? That kind of stuff. And also kind of how I'm structuring my product panning, especially when it comes to eyeshadows. All of that going to be covered in this video. But before I jump into that, if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I would love to have you in the family. Let's jump into the video. So the first tip I have is, or something that I do is, like, I think this is one of the main reasons or main ways that I make sure that I rotate through my collection, is to keep usage tallies and also, you know, like just track what you're using, I guess. And there's two ways that I do that. I do have my inventory spreadsheet, which I will insert a bit here now so you can see. I'm just going to scroll through it, but I have a spreadsheet like that where I track all my usage. So I organize it by month. And then I track which eyeshadows I use every single month, and I can also see the total use. I have been keeping this one since 2024. I did one for 2024, and obviously this is 2025, but I also have a column for 2024 usage. So I have that, and that is one of the ways that I do make sure that I use my shadows. That is how I track them. That's how I make sure that I am reaching for a lot of palettes, and I can see which palettes I haven't reached for yet in the year, which singles I haven't reached for, and singles of course are a section that I'm focusing especially on this year. So this is really helps me know what I'm reaching for and when. So that is the first tip that I have. The second way that I do my kind of tracking is through my notes app. So I will actually do a screen recording and I can talk you through everything. So I'm going to insert now, I think, the footage of what it looks like. So this here is my kind of app, and as you can see, I have a lot of bookmarked apps, not apps, notes, I guess. I have a lot of bookmarked notes for my product panning. So you can see that I have my product pan usage, videos to film in the week, goals for June, eyeshadow bank, and year of usage. So it's kind of ways to track my, I guess, eyeshadows and also panning in general. And the main ones for my panning is the product pan usage, my eyeshadow bands, and year usage. Year usage is a product pan, so I could technically have it under product pan usage, but for me it just makes sense to have its own note because it takes, it's a lot of notes in that specific section. But let me go into product pan usage and you can see a little bit here of what it looks like. So this is kind of how I structure it. So at the top here you can see my Panda palette. You can kind of see how I am tracking use. So I do every single month, and obviously the last month is currently the one that we have. So for example, let's say I use this shadow, I would just add a 1 there instead of a 0, and that's how I track my usage. I also track when I hit pan, I track when I finish shade, stuff like that. So you can see I have pan, that palette at the top. First my soft glam, then my BYOP, have that tracked as well. Then I have Pando's eyeshadows, similar thing. I track all my product pans like this. Panda palette in order, and then I have my product level up. Whenever I kind of hit a sub goal, I bold the text so that you can see that, for example, through my product level up, I have some bolder ones. Those are the ones that I hit my usage goal on. If I do hit like my actual goal, which would be the pan or finish, what I do is similar to what I've done here for the NYX powdered cream. You can see I do like a little dash and then the total usage. That is how I know I hit my goal on it. So that's how I track it. And then we have like other projects like Panda Face Palette, Product Pan, Product Apocalypse, Deco Panning, and Product Polish. So that's how I track my product pans in general, but obviously that's also a way to rotate through my eyeshadows. So that is that kind of notes, and that is the first kind of thing. I did stop my recording, but I just realized that I have other notes as well to talk through, so let me start another recording. So I'm going to insert that again. But then for the other ones we have is mainly eyeshadow bank. In here I can see like what points I've earned. I'm going to skip over June because I haven't posted that update yet, but let's look at May. So this is how I track it too. I can use track like where I get my points, and that is another area that I'm going to cover in a second of like something that I do to try to help me rotate through my shadows. But I do have like no plan left behind. Every time I hit 10 uses I get a point. If you're not familiar with that project, you can check it out, but this is where I track it. So I keep like my own tracking in this app. I keep saying app, but I mean my notes. So yeah, I put in like what I purchased, all that kind of stuff, so I keep that here. And then the last note that I have, I guess, for eyeshadow is year of usage. Same thing here. I put in like anytime I hit my goal, and for this project my goal is to hit 25 uses this year. So I have January, February, March, and I use, you know, every time I hit my goal, and then at the bottom I have my focus 15, and that's another way I keep track of my panning and also my eyeshadow use. So those are like the ways I do my tracking. Again, the spreadsheet on my laptop, but then I also have my phone, and that is just kind of because it's always with me, not always, but most of the time I have my phone with me. I can also access, I have using the numbers app, so I can actually also access my spreadsheet on my phone, which is really, really useful. And that means that even if I'm on the go, I can add my usage in every single day. I don't have to wait until I get home. I used to use Excel, but using numbers with an iPhone is just so much easier. Because it kind of live update between devices. So I have a MacBook and an iPhone, so that really, really helps. But yeah, that is the first way I organize and rotate through my eyeshadows, because tracking what you use is just really gonna help enable you to make sure you're reaching for everything. Then the second tip that I have is kind of keeping palettes that you want to reach for projects, for the season, for whatever reason nearby. So I do have a big palette storage, which is right at the bottom of my 6 Alex drawer, right next to me on this side. So at the bottom, actually 2 drawers are all eyeshadows at the moment, so I keep them in there. But instead of going into that drawer and feeling very, very overwhelmed every single day, a tip that I have is to have a dedicated palette. It could be a drawer, or it could be use focus, like a focus drawer. You can keep your palettes with other makeup items too. For me, I do keep like mainly palettes in that drawer. At the back I have some more storage, but at the very top of this Alex drawer, I'm pulling it out now, I'm keeping any palettes that I'm currently working on. So currently I have these 2, which are in my Pando's eyeshadows. I have some like BYOP, one of them is my Panda palette. I also do have my Panda palette in here. I have my Product Level Up palette, and then also some other BYOPs that I do every single month. So that's kind of what I keep in this drawer right here. If there's anything else that I want to pull out like seasonally or just in general, I place that in that drawer, and it's at the very top. It's easy to access. It's all things that I know that I want to reach for. So having that is something that really, really helps me rotate through, because I feel like if I didn't store them separately than my rest of my collection, I would open my big drawer with all my eyeshadows, and I would be overwhelmed every single day, and I probably would just reach for the same palette every single day because it would just be too much to decide from. At least that's how it works for me. So I do really recommend having a dedicated place for palettes that you want to focus on. Again, you can switch it out weekly, you can switch it out however often you feel like it, monthly, even like, you know, midweek, whatever you feel like. Just make sure you have a space. You can be like even like a storage on top of your desk or wherever you get ready. It could be in a makeup bag. Just keep them separate from the rest of your collection if you do have a large collection, because I do feel like that helps a lot with decision fatigue. So that is tip number 2. Tip number 3 is to have a reward system for rotating through palettes. So for example, like no pan left behind, usage goals, pans, etc. And for me personally, that is my eyeshadow bank. So again, if you are unfamiliar with that project, I would really, really recommend checking it out because I love it. It was created by Lara Force, but I have incorporated into my everyday. I love it. It makes me reach for my palettes much more and actually rotate through, and it also gives you a way to reach for products that are not in product specifically. If you're doing a lot of product pans, at least me, like I tend to reach for a lot of product pan items, but having like those goals in can mean that you can get a reward for reaching for whatever you want. So for example, no pen left behind, I can reach any palette I want. No pen left behind, I can get a point for that. I can get it every time I hit 10 uses on any shadow. Again, doesn't have to be in projects. So having a reward system like that is really, really motivating, and it means that you can reach for what you want rather than just like things that you're trying to pan, like finish or hit pan on. So yeah, that is tip number 3, and definitely something that I recommend doing if you are into numbers and stuff like that. And the way the reward works for me personally is that every time I hit 10 points, I'm allowed to buy 1 shadow, but you can obviously make it work for yourself. Like if you're not on a low buy, you could, yeah, you can just give any reward. It doesn't have to be like makeup purchasing related. It could just be like, okay, every time I hit 10 points, I'm allowed to go and get myself a coffee. Do you see what I mean? Like just having a reward system like that, I think is very beneficial. So that is the next tip. I have 2 more tips to go. The next one is specifically for single shadows. So I do have a ton of single shadows, which is something that I'm trying again to incorporate into my routine and reach for more. And the way that I do that is to make monthly BYOPs. I really recommend this. I do at the moment have them right here. You don't have to have fancy palettes like these, but these really make me feel more motivated. I'm trying to do no pen left behind on them. That's why I have those little notes on top of them. But these palettes I rotate through and change up every single month. This is the round single one. I also have a Cleona one. These specific palettes are from, I can't remember the brand now, I'll put it on screen, Krypton, something like that, but I'll put it on screen, the brand. They're amazing palettes, I really love them, they're very aesthetically pleasing, and it makes me want to reach for my singles more. I can also see through it, so I can see what's in here, even without opening them up, which makes me reach for them even more. So I do really recommend these palettes, but don't feel like you have to pick them up if you don't, you know, if you already have Adam Ignite's palette. You can use anything. You could even use like, you know, I have my Cleona palettes like that. You can use, you know, cheap ones from Amazon, anything like that. But having a BYOP every month that you rotate through means that, again, similar to having a palette drawer, it helps with decision fatigue. It helps just having things on rotation that you can reach for, and then you can switch it out when you feel like you've done, like you've hit your goal, or if you feel like you're fed up with a color story, switch it up. Doesn't have to be monthly. Monthly just works for me, but if you want to do that, I mean, you can just do it as it comes, I guess, as well. But that's really something that helps with rotating through singles. And then the last tip that I have, or last thing that I wanted to mention, is to just find the balance between project panning and using what you want, which is something that I struggle with and I still need to work on. I still am trying to find my own balance, because I tend to reach for a lot of project pan items, but I am trying to do more open-ended projects, I guess, similar to, like, again, eyeshadow bank, year of usage, where I can use whatever I want a bit more but still hit goals, if that makes sense. Because I am a very stubborn person, I'm a very goal motivated person, so I know that if I say you can use whatever you want, it's fine, I'm still going to probably more likely reach for my project pan items, because I want to hit my goal. I want to have good progress. I want to hit my goal. So doing something like, again, those products that I mentioned really helps, because, again, with your usage, ultimately the goal is to hit 25 uses on any, like, everything in my collection. But because everything is free game, like, you can decide on your own what you want to reach for at what time, and I can still make those BYOP, because ultimately, even though it is a very long project, I am slowly working towards that goal of using every single shadow in my collection at least 25 times. So yeah, do whatever works for you. Just maybe you can, like, if you're a person who works kind of like better in routine, stuff like that, you can say, okay, Monday to Friday I do project panning, on the weekend is my time to play, I can reach for whatever works for you, but just make sure to find a balance between reaching for what you want and also project panning, because if you ultimately just reach for product panning, you're going to end up neglecting a lot of eyeshadows in your collection, and that's something that I'm guilty of a lot of the time, especially in the past, but I am slowly working my way to reaching for what I want a bit more, and it's something that I've done much better with, in especially this year and also last year. But yeah, that is going to be all of my little tips and tricks for today. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it's helpful. Again, I've had these questions pop up a couple times, just because you guys know how many eyeshadow products that I'm doing and how many eyeshadows that I have in my collection. But yeah, I hope you guys are having an amazing day wherever you are. If you do have any additional tips, please let us know in the comments and let me know. Any tips help, but also let each other know, so you can go and have a check down there if anyone else have any tips. But yeah, I will catch you in my next video. Bye guys!